Your journey here is no random occurrence. Something more profound is at work. That persistent, quiet voice within you, it's not there by accident. An old, deep, knowing part of your soul is pressing against the confines of the self you show the world. It's urging you to question the face you present and the easy agreements you offer up, like gifts on an altar that has never truly given back. So, I'll ask you directly, what happens to the deeply feeling person when they cease to worship at the shrine of other people's ease? Let's explore that now. When the lifelong habit of accommodation finally crumbles, the true archetype within begins to stir, not the persona, that social costume stitched together from early hurts and learned responses, but the raw, neglected core, the empathetic individual you must understand is often not born but made, shaped not from innate joy, but from sheer survival instinct. To feel the room was safer than to feel one's own heart. This is the first crack in the facade, seeing that your profound sensitivity wasn't a present. It was summoned. It was an unconscious creation, a response to an unsafe space. A child doesn't learn to read a room because the world cherished their spirit. They learn because they had to decode silence to remain secure. So what society applauds in you, your care, your foresight, your intuition, is often just the visible scar tissue of a hidden injury. That injury has a title. It is the wound of self-obliteration. For years, maybe a lifetime, you've moved through existence like a mirror with no border, only reflecting, only absorbing, bending your light for others' use. You became an expert in unspoken moods, in shifts of energy, in the faint tremor behind a voice not yet speaking. You cultivated this sixth sense not because you are otherworldly, but because you were educated by unease. Growing up where emotions were volatile, you become fluent in the dialect of tension. You learn to sense a coming storm in a perfect calm. You smile, you accommodate, you pacify, hoping this currency will purchase love. But real love cannot be bought with self-sacrifice. The instant you grasp this truth is the moment everything begins to change from the depths upward. At first, it's just a whisper, a foreign discomfort when you say eyes on autopilot, an exhaustion no amount of sleep fixes, a sense of treason, though the only betrayer has been you. Then the dreams arrive. The psyche, tired of the deception, stirs below the surface and sends up visions. You are submerged in deep water. You are fleeing through a house that's falling apart. You are chased by a crowd with no faces. These aren't mere bad dreams. They are communications. The house is the architecture of your pretended self. The water is your dissolving limits. The crowd is the countless roles you've played to keep the peace. The unconscious speaks in symbols because the soul awakens through recognition, not reason. So you start to ask, who am I when I'm utterly alone? Who exists if I am not required? What's left when I cease the endless giving? This is where the ache truly starts, because the initial answer is nothing. Silence. A hollow void. When you've built your whole identity through accommodation, the absence of that script feels like an ending. And in a vital way, it's the death of the counterfeit self. The part that believed love is only earned through deletion. But here's a secret, one I need you to hear. A truth buried in the heart of shadow. The void is not a tomb. It is a womb. The death you sense is not permanent. It is alchemy. You are being cracked open. Not to be ruined, but to be rebuilt by authenticity. To finally meet the self, not the mask that earned praise, not the performance of empathy, but the primordial you that was there before the need to be needed ever existed. This awakening starts with fury. Yes, fury. Not kindness, not pardon, but unrefined, righteous fury. Because when you quit appeasing everyone, you start to perceive the exploitation. You see how your softness was used, how your quiet was taken as consent, how your presence was demanded while your needs were ignored. You see it not through a detached analysis, but through the crimson lens of a spirit that has finally had enough. Do not flee from this anger. It is not poison. It is holy. It is the flame that severs the cords of codependency. It is the voice that declares, no further. It is the warrior archetype rising within the gentle soul for the very first time. And it is terrifying for someone who built their life around maintaining peace. The act of setting a limit can feel like an attack, but it is not violence. It is preservation. And preservation is not cruelty. It is the most fundamental form of self-regard. Here, you meet your shadow. For decades, you disowned your rage, buried your so-called selfishness, locked away the part of you that desired more. These traits were hidden, given to others to carry, shamed into silence. But now, as you stop placating the world, the shadow returns, not to harm you, but to be made whole. The shadow says, I am your ignored longing. I am your stifled cry. I am your stolen no, and I have been waiting. Do not fear the shadow. Fear the life you lived denying it. We cannot be complete without gathering back the pieces we gave away. And the journey of the deep feeler is not only about compassion. It's about reclamation. To remember, to call back every fragment of soul offered at the altar of acceptance. Every ice that was a silent no. Every time you swallowed your pain to soothe another. Every instance you made yourself tiny so someone else could feel large. Each was a loss of spirit, and each must now be retrieved. This is not quick. It is not a straight line. You will grieve. Not just for people, but for the illusion you once called connection. You will mourn bonds built on performance. You will outgrow circles that once meant home. You will be lonely, not because you are unlovable, but because you no longer fit the molds that kept you surrounded. And in that solitude, something miraculous occurs. Stillness. For the first time, you are not scrambling to mend, to assist, to absorb. You sit, you weep, you listen, you breathe, and you start to hear a voice you haven't heard in ages, your own. It's fragile at first, like a child long neglected. But it is there, and it says things you'd forgotten how to say it. I am weary. I do not want this. I have needs. I matter. This is the homecoming. You begin to see not just others, but yourself. You look in the glass and see the price of perpetual kindness. You notice the tension in your chest, the weight in your belly, the unshed tears. You feel again, not just for others but for you. This is the turning point. When the empath ceases to please the world, they don't become self-centered. They become sovereign. Sovereignty is not arrogance. It is alignment. It's knowing your own borders. It's being generous from a place of abundance, not depletion. It is refusing to be the emotional dumping ground for everyone else's unresolved pain. At this stage, you begin to draw a different kind of energy, because you are no longer broadcasting the frequency of martyrdom. You no longer attract those who feed on rescuers. The narcissists, the drains, the chaos seekers, they drift away. And though this hurts, it is sacred. It is a clearing of the false to allow space for the true. But be clear, this new path demands watchfulness. The old self will whisper temptations. The urge to people please will resurface in doubt. The archetype of the wounded caretaker is alluring, especially when it brings praise. So you must become a mystic of your own soul, a guardian of your own energy. You must ask each day, am I giving from love or from lack? Am I serving from joy or duty? Am I being seen or merely used? These are not selfish inquiries. They are sacred boundaries. The world does not need more burned-out empaths. It needs vacant, whole ones. Ones who can say yes with a full heart and no without shame. Ones who can love without vanishing. Ones who can feel without being engulfed. You must now see your sensitivity not as your identity, but as your instrument. And like any fine instrument, it must be tuned, guarded, and honored. You are not here to carry the globe. You are here to feel its vibrations, and then consciously choose what to hold. You are not here to fade for others' comfort. You are here to shine your presence so completely that others recall their own light. The empath who stops pleasing and starts perceiving becomes something new. They become medicine. And now that you've tasted this medicine of truth, I must caution you, it will not let you go back to sleep. Once the veil is torn, once the inner eye has opened and glimpsed its own reflection in the dark mirror, it cannot be closed again. You now live in a sacred tension between who you were and who you are becoming. This is the liminal space, the psychic corridor between the house of false belonging and the temple of authentic being. It is uneasy. The old costumes no longer fit. The new ones aren't yet worn in. You don't wish to be the silent comforter, but you don't yet know how to speak your full truth without trembling. This is the stage the alchemists named the blackening, the necessary dissolution so the soul may be reconstituted in wholeness. Do not mistake this disorientation for defeat. It is transformation. In this phase, dreams may intensify. You might see falling walls, wounded hands, snakes molting. These are not random. They are soul-level instructions. The crumbling wall is your old identity structure falling. The bleeding hand is the pain of releasing control. The snake is the symbol of transmutation, the old self dying so the new can live. You are being reborn through the death of illusion, but you will be tested. The pleaser archetype won't leave quietly. It will whisper with moral superiority. Do it anyway, even if it hurts. Don't be selfish. They need you. It's your duty to keep the peace. These are not virtues. They are psychic weapons meant to chain you to the cycle of soul extraction. Every time you trade your truth for others' comfort, you abandon yourself at their altar, and this abandonment has consequences, not just psychological, but physical. Your body starts to speak. Anxiety becomes chronic. Your skin flares. Your gut rebels. Fatigue is your baseline. These are not random ailments. They are energetic protest. Your nervous system is exhausted from being hyper, attuned to everyone but you. But when you stop the pattern, when you dare to reclaim your energy, the body begins slowly to heal, the breath deepens, the jaw loosens, the spine straightens. You start to inhabit your body again, like returning to a sacred home long left empty. You eat differently. You speak differently. You enter spaces not to be liked but to be real. And this can frighten people, because you are no longer their projection screen. When you pleased everyone, you became a blank surface for others to cast their needs and fantasies upon. You were the nice one, the reliable one, the easy one. But when you remove that screen and stand in your sovereignty, people can no longer use you to avoid themselves. They may grow upset. They may say you've changed. They may call you cold, distant, selfish. Do not absorb their discomfort. It is theirs to hold, not yours to carry. You are not responsible for others' reactions to your boundaries. You are only responsible for your integrity. This is where the true transformation deepens, not just in setting limits, but in holding them with compassion and consistency, even amidst guilt, manipulation, or abandonment. Let's go deeper into the archetypal heart of this change. Within every empath lives a forgotten figure, the wild self. This is not the soft, intuitive empath most know. This is the untamed, unapologetic, fully embodied essence that existed before domestication, before guilt, before love became a transaction. The wild self does not please, it pulses with primal knowing. It feels deeply but is not ruled by others' wounds. It does not ask permission to exist. It simply is. To awaken this part, you must walk the labyrinth of emotional inheritance. You must ask, who taught me love is earned? Whose approval did I beg for? Who benefited from my silence, my compliance, my false brightness? These aren't just personal questions, they are mythic. In confronting them, you are not just healing your story, you are dismantling generations of psychic legacy. You are breaking the ancient spell cast upon the sensitive that your worth is measured by how much you give away. This awakening is not about being nice, it's about being real. Niceness is often a performance. It is compliance in polite clothing. It is silence dressed as virtue. What the world needs now is not niceness. It is fierce empathy rooted in truth. Empathy that includes you. Empathy that says, I feel you, but I will not abandon me. Can you sense the gravity of this shift? When the empath stops pleasing, they become a mirror, not of others' projections, but of their shadows. Your refusal to self-abandon will expose their tendency to take. Your boundary will trigger their guilt. Your clarity will unearth their chaos. And so many will retreat, not because you are wrong, but because they are unprepared to meet themselves in your reflection. But the few who stay, these are your true companions. They will not just take, they will see you, honor you, reciprocate. Relationships once imbalanced will either collapse or evolve. Those who truly love you will adapt. Those who only needed you will leave. This is not loss. This is sorting. And in the quiet that follows, you will finally hear the frequency of your own soul. Not the static of others' needs, not the noise of demands, just you, your essence, your desire. This is what it means to see. You no longer confuse attachment for love. You no longer mistake intensity for connection. You recognize manipulation dressed as need. You feel the difference between real intimacy and emotional extraction. You see it in the eyes, in the energy, in the silence. You have become the one who perceives, and this vision extends beyond you. The empath who stops pleasing becomes a vessel for collective healing. Because now when you give, it's not from emptiness, but from alignment. When you help, it's not from fear, but from choice. When you serve, it's not for love, but from love. This is sacred service, and it has power. Your aura shifts. You no longer pull in the wounded who seek to siphon your light. You begin to attract those who carry their own light, those who meet you eye to eye, soul to soul. The frequency of your life elevates, not through effort, but through release. You lose the approval of many and gain the truth of yourself. Do you see now why this path isn't for the faint of heart? Why so many remain trapped in the cycle of pleasing? To break free, you must confront every idea you ever held about love. You must be willing to be misunderstood, rejected, even alone for a time. But in that solitude, the soul blooms. You were never meant to be everyone's healer. You were meant to become your own medicine. And from that healed wholeness, you radiate a light that reminds others of their own, not by fixing them, but by being so fully yourself that they remember how to come home. People pleasing is an addiction to validation, a psychic compulsion to merge, to fix, to smooth edges. Not because you are good, but because you are afraid. Afraid that without your usefulness, you are unworthy. Afraid that without your performance, you will be discarded. This is the wound of abandonment, wearing the costume of kindness, but beneath that costume something stirs, a deeper self that does not beg to belong because it knows it already does, not to others, but to existence itself. You were not born to do others' emotional homework. You are a sovereign psyche, a unique arrangement of ancient intelligence, and your life belongs to you. The moment you know this, not just in your mind, but in your bones, is the moment you reclaim your throne. When you sit on your own throne, the entire universe rearranges. You no longer orbit others' needs. They begin to revolve around the gravitational pull of your genuine presence. Not because you manipulate, but because authenticity resonates. When you stop leaking energy through unconscious giving, it becomes condensed, radiant, magnetic. You don't speak louder, you speak from within. And that is true power, power rooted in alignment. This is inner marriage, the sacred union of doing and being, giving and receiving within you. You are no longer fragmented, no longer seeking your missing half outside, because you've started the holy work of integration. And with integration comes piercing discernment. You see the games, the guilt trips, the backhanded compliments, the covered contracts disguised as care. You no longer absorb them personally. You witness with the detachment of one who has seen behind the curtain. You think, I remember when I played that role. But you do not judge. You simply do not join. This refusal to participate in unconscious dynamics is not cruelty. It is the highest compassion, rooted in clarity. You give others the dignity of their own journey. You hold space, but not responsibility for their choices. And this, perhaps, is the most painful initiation, realizing that healing others is not your job. Let that settle into your nervous system. Healing others is not your job. It was never your job. It was your identity, your escape, your survival strategy. But it was never your destiny. You were not placed here to be consumed. You were placed here to become conscious. And through your consciousness, others may remember their own. But that is their journey, not your task. As this truth becomes part of you, your energy turns inward, like a tide returning to its source. You begin to feel full, not from praise, but from presence. And from this fullness you create. You write, you move, you dream. Your soul, once muffled, begins to sing. Not because you are finally free, but because you finally chose to be. You'll notice something beautiful then. The right people find you. Not because you're performing, but because you're vibrating truth. Authenticity is the ultimate beacon. Some connections will fade, others will flourish. Let them. Trust the intelligence of your transformation. Not everyone is meant to walk with you past this threshold. Some bonds were only ever meant to mirror the unhealed version of you. Now that you are healing, they no longer recognize you. Do not grieve this endlessly. Bless them, thank them, and continue. What awaits is not just self-knowledge, but self-embodiment. You are not here to just understand your wounds. You are here to transmute them into wisdom, into art, into sacred offering. You become not a wounded healer, but a whole one, offering from overflow, not emptiness. This is not martyrdom, it is mastery. You move through the world differently now. Unafraid of no, unafraid of silence. Unafraid of losing people, because you are no longer afraid of losing yourself. This is the empath, reborn. No longer a sponge, a servant, a secret sufferer. A sovereign being who chooses connection without compulsion, gives without depletion, loves without vanishing. You may still feel deeply, but you no longer drown. You may still care, but you no longer carry what was never yours. You may still help, but only when help is sacred, not self-sacrifice. In this new way of being, you embody a deeper archetype. Not the empath, but the oracle, the one who feels not to please, but to perceive. The one who serves not to be loved, but because they are love. The one who walked through the fires of self, erasure, and emerged glowing with vision, with discernment, with power. The empath who stops pleasing and starts seeing doesn't lose their light. They finally learn how to aim it. Now, you walk into rooms with your energy intact. You don't scan for emotional weather. You anchor in your own atmosphere and let others adjust. You allow others to meet their own pain. You trust their soul's intelligence. You no longer mistake discomfort for danger. Your nervous system, once coiled from hypervigilance, unwinds. Breath by breath you come home. You laugh more. You say no faster. You ask without apology. You stop explaining your boundaries. You let the silence after them speak. And you begin to attract what matches your vibration, not your wound. This is the great miracle. The people who arrive now want the real, the rooted, the radiant you. The one who can love without leaking. When you meet these true companions, you'll know, not by excitement, but by a deep, calming expansion in your body. There is no anxiety in real connection, only recognition. The work continues, wholeness is a practice. Old ghosts will call. You may catch yourself nodding when you want to shake your head. But now you catch it, not with shame, but with curiosity. You ask, who in me is speaking? The inner child fearing abandonment, the savior wanting love. You don't exile these parts, you invite them in. You breathe with them. You honor their story, and you gently remind them, we don't need to do this anymore. We are safe now. We belong to ourselves. This is the true liberation, not destroying your sensitivity, but freeing your identity from it. You are more than what you feel. You are the one who watches the feeling, shapes it, channels it. You are the vessel, not the water. The bridge, not the burden. In this deep remembrance, you become something holy, a psychic anchor. In a world of chaos, you hold stillness. In a world of performance, you offer truth. In a world addicted to noise, you bring a healing silence. Your mere presence disrupts dysfunction, not through confrontation, but through calibration. Others begin to settle simply because you no longer abandon yourself to soothe them. This is energetic mastery. This is the empath ascended. So, to you who has felt too much, given too much, lost too much, I offer this closing truth. You are not broken. You are breaking open. You are not too sensitive. You are exquisitely tuned. You are not here to carry the world. You are here to embody your own. Walk on. Speak true. Love wisely. And please, above all else, never again abandon yourself to be loved. The soul you betray when you please everyone is your own, and the soul you recover when you begin to see, that soul is everything. If this resonated with you, help these winds of thought reach others who need to hear them. Please like this video, and make sure you're subscribed to Wake and Win. Your journey is just beginning.